This chubby flight attendant went crazy all night in Thailand, only to wake up and discover something terrifying. Her palms were covered in blood and she thought she had done something exciting with her new boyfriend last night. She turned around and found that her boyfriend was covered in blood all over his body, and someone had wiped his neck. She was so scared that she tightly covered her mouth, afraid that the screams she made would be too charming and attract others' attention. Her legs were so scared that they were limp, and she sat down weakly. He couldn't figure out why his boyfriend who was still good last night died by his side. What's even more terrifying is that he was completely unaware of the entire process. Afraid, he quickly dialed the front desk of the hotel to seek help, but the next second he quickly hung up again. He doesn't want to sit on his bottom just because of one indulgence. After calming down, he dialed his best friend's lawyer's phone and asked if Thailand's laws were strict. His best friend said that if he killed someone there, he wouldn't be able to come back without losing his 2 waists, which scared the flight attendant's bladder out of control and made him pee all over the ground. Hanging up the phone, he immediately packed up the evidence of his visit, even collected all the weapons and broken glass underground, and wiped the blood clean. I took a hot bath to calm myself down, threw the stolen goods and murder weapon into the trash can, put on a headscarf, and hurriedly fled the hotel. As soon as he returned to his residence, his colleague knocked on the door. Their flight was about to take off, so he asked him not to miss the time. After changing his uniform and getting on the bus to the airport, he suddenly realized that his fingers were covered in blood. He rubbed them hard but couldn't get rid of it. His mind was filled with images of his boyfriend's death, and he was already extremely nervous. As a police car whizzed past, he turned his head in fear and didn't dare to look straight in the face. It wasn't until the plane took off that the stone in his heart fell. As soon as he returned to his own country, he felt that everything would be gone from him. He constantly encouraged himself to cheer, and his thoughts also returned to a day ago. That day, he served as usual for passengers heading to Thailand, but with just one glance, he was fascinated by the small beards of the mountains. The 2 people who fell in love couldn't wait to come to the bathroom and started eating. Until the end, the flight attendant was still reminiscing about the tone of Dashan. As soon as she got off the plane, she put on a beautiful dress and went out on a date with Dashan. The 2 of them went shopping and ate together, and finally went crazy all night at the hotel. After waking up, Dashan died beside him. Accompanied by a hurried knocking on the door, the flight attendant's thoughts were also pulled back. Meanwhile, the hotel has discovered the body of Dashan, and the police immediately conducted an investigation into the case. Strangely enough, when Dashan's mother received the news, she did not appear too surprised, and the flight attendant who returned home also discovered a fatal mistake. His ID card was not in his wallet, and even after searching the entire backpack, he could not find it, but found a dictionary of Dashan. It seems that his ID card was most likely left in a hotel in Thailand. It seems that he is closely related to Dashan's death. At this moment, the information of their airline company has appeared on the police desk, and soon the boxing team members were questioned by the police. Everyone also told them about the flirtation between the flight attendant and Dashan. In this way, the flight attendant can't even avoid being noticed by the police. At this moment, he is in a panic, and the entire questioning is in a trance. Fortunately, the police only wanted to have a brief understanding of the situation this time, so no measures were taken against him. At the same time, he remembered that there was another woman named Miranda present during the date that night. The flight attendant vaguely remembers Dashan saying that Miranda was his business partner, so could Dashan's death be closely related to Miranda? Now only by finding him can we prove our innocence. So he impersonated a client and came to Dashan's company. Since they were business partners, someone must have known him. But when the flight attendant and receptionist talked about Miranda, the other person said they had never seen her before. The answer from the front desk was a bit strange, but when he heard Miranda's name, he made a disgusted expression. The flight attendant wanted to ask more questions, but the other party refused to speak up. Not long after, the flight attendant received a call from the police asking him to come over for questioning. Because the police discovered some useful clues again, they retrieved surveillance footage from the hotel, but strangely enough, there was no surveillance footage from 6 hours before the murder in the mountains, so this murder was carefully planned. The flight attendant knew that relying solely on her own pig brain could not clear the suspicion, so she had to tell the lawyer everything in detail. Accompanied by the lawyer, they went to the police station together. His words and phrases had a great impact on her innocence. Every time he answered a question, he would look at the lawyer to judge whether he could speak. However, to her surprise, the police directly brought up the scene of Dashan's murder, which greatly affected the flight attendant's psychological endurance. She even told them about her date with Dashan and their return to the hotel to play poker. She also told them that Miranda had also been to the hotel that night. In this way, he became the largest suspect. But the police don't have any substantial evidence, so they can only let him leave. Then the two of them reviewed together everything that night. Just now, the flight attendant did not mention to the police that he had left the room after checking into the hotel. So, could the killer have done it when he left? Due to his drunkenness that night, he didn't realize that Dashan had been killed when he returned to his room. Only in this way can we explain why he didn't die. The key now is to find Miranda, so the flight attendant fully utilized his strengths and found the front desk. After all, the behavior of the front desk that day was very suspicious. For the flight attendant, there is nothing that cannot be solved by a single drink. Two drinking friends met and quickly became girlfriends who talked about everything. According to the front desk, Miranda and Dashan should be in a romantic relationship because he can always hear them flirting at the office door. However, before Dashan had an accident, they seemed to have separated. So, could Dashan have been killed by Miranda due to emotional issues? After the flight attendant left, a mysterious woman stared at him. His walking steps and knife-waving movements looked very skilled. He held the knife and approached the flight attendant step by step. At a critical moment, a football team suddenly entered and the flight attendant also took a taxi and left the scene. Just as he got off the car, he received an advertisement recommending that Dashan's parents would hold a memorial service for him this weekend. Since Miranda has such a relationship with Dashan, he may appear at the memorial service. So the flight attendant asked her colleague Xiao Hei to accompany her to the memorial service, and the police also arrived at the scene, hiding in the dark to investigate. The lawyer's sudden phone call made the flight attendant very embarrassed. Everyone's gaze was focused on him, and the lawyer told him that he must leave here as soon as possible because the lawyer had checked the detailed information of the Dashan family. His family was laundering money for some gangsters, and if necessary, they were very likely to use knives. Nevertheless, the flight attendant still had a heavy heart and said she wanted to find Miranda no matter what, and hung up the lawyer's phone directly. At that moment, he found an old woman in the corner, who turned out to be the mother of the mountain. The flight attendant asked him about Miranda, but he remained firm and said that Miranda had never been with the mountain before, and he didn't want to mention Miranda's name again, which made the flight attendant look confused. What is the relationship between Miranda and Dashan, if they haven't dated each other before? The flight attendant saw the mountain mother go upstairs and followed her up. At the door, she heard him talking to the other end of the phone about Miranda and some shattered mountain documents. While everyone was attending the memorial service downstairs, she searched the rooms upstairs and finally found those documents in the trash can. On the way home, he suddenly had a third grade and was about to flood the bathroom when he was stopped by a mysterious person. This meeting finally reminded the flight attendant that he was the one who was with them at the hotel that night, and he was Miranda. Seeing his murderous expression, the flight attendant realized something was wrong and threw the stinky shoes out. She took the initiative and turned around to run for takeoff. Fortunately, he was lucky enough to encounter two scenes, and Miranda gave up the pursuit. Then he went straight to the lawyer's house and struggled with his boyfriend all night. Finally, he pieced together the shattered documents, which were all information about a holding company, and Dashan was a member of the board of directors of that company. But these pieces of information don't seem worth murdering the mountains at all, but there's an airline name on them. This is a strange airline because it has a plane flying to the same place every day. In order to board this flight, he contacted the captain of the flight and agreed to play cook with him all night as a substitute driver. Finally, he decided to bring himself with him. But he never expected that this would be a ghost flight, with only the crew and himself on the entire plane. At first, he didn't know what the secret behind this flight was, but it wasn't until the plane landed that he understood everything. While the staff was moving the goods, he quietly opened the box. Although his hair is very long, he is waiting desperately for things to happen. What was in front of him, he had no idea what it was. He wanted to take a photo with his phone and record it, but the phone also landed on the seat, so he had to remember the bar code on the item. Returning to the plane, he quickly picked up his phone to check the contents of the box, and it turned out to be the battery pack of a rocket. It seems that Dashan must have been involved in weapon smuggling, and because of some kind of interest relationship, he was brutally killed. But whether things are really as he guessed still needs to be verified. At this moment, he also remembered the front desk, perhaps based on the clues he currently had. he could obtain some useful information from the front desk. As soon as the plane landed, he hurriedly knocked on the front desk door. He knocked hard on the door, but no one opened it. Vaguely, he seemed to hear Miranda's voice, so scared that he could only hurriedly leave and call the police. But before he could explain everything to the police, a body suddenly fell right in front of him from the second day of the day, frightening him to lose control of his bladder and urinate all over the ground. Soon, the police arrived at the scene and took the body away for investigation, and the flight attendant became a witness to the murder. According to regulations, the police conducted necessary inquiries about him, but they still have great doubts about him. Whether it is the death of Dashan or the death of the front desk, they are closely related to him. In order to prove her innocence, the flight attendant blurted out the smuggling of weapons by the Dashan family without thinking. Seeing that the situation was not right, the lawyer quickly stopped him. Because of these things, the flight attendant has no substantial evidence. He has neither photos nor evidence, and coupled with his history of alcoholism, the lawyer is also skeptical of his arguments. But for the flight attendant, he just wants to live well and doesn't want to become the next front desk. He's really scared now, really scared. Based on the spliced documents, the flight attendant and lawyer's boyfriend discovered another suspicious place. They followed the information above and found an empty office, which appeared to have nothing but a huge secret hidden inside. In the center of the office, there is a covered room with a huge server placed inside. Soon, the lawyer's boyfriend went black and discovered the true cause of death in Dashan. Originally, for some unknown reason, Dashan quietly transferred $200 million from the company, which was the direct reason for his tragic death. Perhaps the mastermind behind the scenes believed that the flight attendant knew the whereabouts of the money, which was why he targeted him, so Miranda also had a murderous intent on him because of this huge sum of money. At this point, the lawyer's boyfriend discovered a list on it, which not only included information about flight attendants, but also Miranda. And Dashan and the front desk are also on the list. The first two have already died tragically, so this is a death list. So next it's the flight attendant and Miranda's turn. They want to obtain more information, but they have already been discovered by the other party. They can only copy the information they have obtained into a USB drive and leave in a hurry. They had just come out when a speeding car drove towards them. The lawyer's boyfriend pushed the flight attendant away to save him, enduring everything with his body. This car accident almost killed him. Since the birth of the flight attendant, the lawyer has been trying his best to help him, but now he has implicated his boyfriend. Looking at the unscathed flight attendant, the lawyer's heart is full of mixed feelings. The flight attendant attempted to inform the lawyer of the information they had learned and even said that they had copied everything onto the USB drive. Although the lawyer was furious, he still suppressed his dissatisfaction and checked his boyfriend's clothes pocket, but there was no USB drive inside as mentioned by the flight attendant. Watching this scene, the lawyer also lost trust in the flight attendant and rudely kicked him out of the ward. The disappointed and heartbroken flight attendant wanted to find colleagues to drink and chat with her, but they were all busy with their own lives and had no time at all. So he found Curly Hair, who had been pursuing him recently, and played a poker game to relieve his frustration. The next morning, he woke up and left. Miranda had already been waiting for a long time, using a gun to hold onto the back of the flight attendant and forcing her to hand over the huge sum of money. But the flight attendant is just an ordinary woman who enjoys playing poker with men, and he doesn't even know where the huge sum is. Under his sincere performance, Miranda finally believed him. Miranda only wants to seek wealth and doesn't want to harm you. However, what is even more terrifying is that the killer who killed Dashan and the front desk was not Miranda, so from the beginning, Miranda became the wife of the behind-the-scenes boss, so the boss also sent another assassin. At this moment, Miranda suddenly realized that he and the flight attendant had become targets of assassins. They became like grasshoppers on a boat, telling each other everything they knew. On the day of the incident in Dashan, after the flight attendant left, Miranda had a few more drinks and complained to Dashan about the mastermind behind the scenes. She accidentally revealed that the Dashan family and the mastermind were involved in smuggling. For all of this, Dashan didn't know. After the truth, he completely collapsed and couldn't believe that his family was engaging in shady activities. In a fit of anger, he transferred $200 million, which was why he was killed. In the end, the two decided to help each other and together they found the huge sum of money, which evaporated from the human world. During this period, Curly Hair has been in contact with the flight attendant, wanting to fly together and grow old together. However, between love and life, Curly Hair can only choose himself. After hanging up the phone, he suddenly remembered something very important. Then they returned home together and took out Dashan's dictionary. Surprisingly, they found the $200 million account and password that Dashan had transferred from it. And the assassin also came over at this moment, and the two of them worked together to drive the assassin out. They closed the door and climbed up the fire escape from the window to the balcony. Ignoring the situation, they crossed the 3-meter corridor and hid. Soon, the assassin followed and they accidentally lost the dictionary, which happened to be picked up by the assassin. What the flight attendant never expected was that this assassin was curly-haired, which made him feel cold. He was so foolish that he would automatically deliver the goods to his doorstep. After playing poker with him so many times, I realized that I had already been targeted by him. After discussion, they decided to stick to their plan. Tonight, the flight attendant will fly to Rome, and Curly knows about it. After the plane lands, the flight attendant will go to the hotel to open a room, and Miranda will enter the room early to hide. When the flight attendant enters the room, Curly will take action, and then Miranda will launch a surprise attack from behind. This plan can be said to be seamless, and the two of them can do it as they please. But on their way, Miranda received a mysterious phone call and had to deal with some things. However, their plan remains unchanged. Miranda learned from Eyeliner that the boss was nearby and took advantage of his unpreparedness to solve the problem. By the time the boss realized something was wrong, Miranda had already gained the upper hand by nearly 10 and aimed a gun at his head. Watching the situation worsen, the old stool obediently put down the dictionary and knelt down on the ground. Unexpectedly, he suddenly counterattacked and shot Miranda in a big fight, and he also died under Miranda's gun. He hadn't seen Miranda ascend the throne for a long time. The flight attendant realized that something might have happened to him. As soon as he got off the plane, he quickened his pace and prepared to leave, but was still stopped by Curly at the airport. Looking at the sinister smile on Curly hair, he was extremely scared and had to resort to his tricks. He walked towards Curly hair and threw himself into his arms all night, shouting for help. With the help of passers-by, he temporarily dodged the threat. Meanwhile, Miranda has boarded the next flight to Rome, and the flight attendant has also arrived at the hotel as planned. He went to the bathroom to wash his face, but saw something hidden inside the bathroom. Opening the curtain, Miranda lay unconscious in the bathtub, while Curly stood on top of it. The frightened flight attendant ran away, but as soon as she ran out, Curly grabbed her calf and pulled her back. The current flight attendants have no way out and can only lose once, but he was not a match for Curly hair at all. He was constantly being pressed down and rubbed fiercely. In a critical moment, he picked up a knife from the ground, stabbed Curly hair, took the opportunity to get a gun, and pounced on him. Strangely enough, when the police searched the hotel, they did not find Miranda's body, and this case was also marked as a stronghold with his disappearance.